Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, August 28th, 2020, and today I'm going to be talking about Evan McMullin. He's an independent candidate that ran in 2016 who received roughly half a percentage on the national popular vote. Now, the reason why he is a significant person enough that I'm making a video about it is because he received 22% of the vote in the state of Utah. It's only 6 electoral votes, but the never Trump and anti-Trump Republican presence there was very strong in the 2016 election. We now have one senator on the Republican side, Mitt Romney from Utah, who is saying that he will not endorse Donald Trump. He actually voted to impeach him. That's significant because Mitt Romney was the 2012 Republican presidential nominee. He ran against Barack Obama and lost. Now, 4 years later, Donald Trump is put up as president, and Mitt Romney is the only Republican who bands together with Democrats and votes to convict the president on a number of things that were brought against him that got him impeached in the House of Representatives. So, Evan McMullin, other than the fact that he got 22% in Utah and 7% in Idaho, there isn't much else to say about this guy other than the fact that he's growing with a list of other candidates that are not candidates, Republicans that are endorsing Joe Biden. 188 Republicans besides Evan McMullin to this day have endorsed Joe Biden, whether that's former senators, former secretaries in the Bush administration, former Trump officials. We have a number of Republicans that are now endorsing Joe Biden for president. That is very significant because Evan McMullin could very well push Utah further to the left. Now, Utah has never been the type of state to vote for the Democratic Party. Hillary Clinton got less of a vote share here than she did in Wyoming. It's just that Evan McMullin was able to take that conservative voice and redirect it towards his campaign. Now, he received 22% of the vote. Hillary Clinton received 27% of the vote. In 2012, Barack Obama only received 25% of the vote. So around 3% of Republicans moved over to the Democratic column, while Mitt Romney carried 73% of the state. He served as a governor for Massachusetts, but then jumped onto the state of Utah to run for the open Senate seat vacated by Senator Orrin Hatch. Mitt Romney ended up winning that Senate race back in 2018. So he's in until at least 2024. So the fact that Mitt Romney did so well here means that this state shouldn't even be remotely competitive. However, Donald Trump didn't even reach 50%. Evan McMullin took away 22% of the Republican vote. And I'm not saying that Utah's going to be super competitive in 2020, but what I'm saying is Evan McMullin is literally a candidate who offered an alternative to Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump that is now comfortable with Joe Biden being elected. And I think this is a story being told by a number of Republicans nationwide. Could you find a female candidate on the Republican side from 2016 that was in more opposition to Hillary Clinton than Carly Fiorina? Now Carly Fiorina endorses Joe Biden. She would not even have considered voting for Hillary Clinton. A lot of these Republicans who are very much anti-Clinton and maybe not too much pro-Trump are now starting to reconsider a Biden ticket, as many Republicans have now. A number of those Republicans who were very staunch GOP advocates back in 96, back through the 2000s. Even the McCain family has said they are endorsing Joe Biden for president. You have Romney, the 2012 nominee, not voting for Donald Trump. You have McCain's family, the 2008 Republican Party nominee's family, saying they're voting for Joe Biden. So we're starting to see the entirety of the Republican Party wing that wasn't exactly on board with Trump in the beginning starting to slowly decay away from Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump does have roughly an 80 to 90% approval rating amongst Republicans. I don't think the Biden campaign should be focusing on purely Republican votes and winning over these Republicans. They've already made a number of concessions on both sides of the aisle that very well could push away some Republicans based on policy alone. So I don't think that the Biden campaign should forfeit the solid Democratic base that they've had for quite some time now and the solid independent base on the hopes of getting some Republican candidates. But I will say that some of these Republicans are starting to come to terms with the fact that Joe Biden's administration, while policy-wise may not be too effective for their own personal beliefs, may be better than President Trump. John Kasich came out and spoke at the DNC for Joe Biden. And Evan McMullin's numbers here, sure, it probably won't be enough to make this state competitive. But what we're seeing in the state of Utah at this point in time is that Joe Biden has a rough share of 37% of the vote. 37% compared to 27% is pretty significant. That's a 10% increase for Joe Biden. Again, This state is not going to go to Joe Biden. Donald Trump will carry the state of Utah, but we're starting to see a trend that, not in a single poll is Biden under Hillary Clinton's numbers or in the 20s. That's because a lot of these Republicans, Utah's a perfect example, are starting to consider Joe Biden as a viable option because they voted for Evan McMullin, or they voted for Gary Johnson, or they just didn't vote at all. They are considering Joe Biden as a potential choice because he seems more reasonable. Hillary Clinton was viewed as corrupt and dishonest. Joe Biden's approved of by Americans. I mean, he has a positive approval rating, according to the most recent poll from Fox News, by 9%. Donald Trump is underwater by double digits in terms of favorability rating and job approval on the way that he's handling the presidency. In Utah, they haven't exactly been too approving of President Trump either. Whenever he's approved of in Utah, it's only by single digits, and sometimes it's actually underwater in a state that he carried by 20%, but could narrow up through Election Day. Now, there is no notable third-party candidate running in Utah. We're not going to see an Evan McMullin situation again. However, that's actually a plus for Joe Biden. The fact that there aren't third-party candidates in a number of other states, some of those anti-Trump voters that voted for Gary Johnson because they didn't want to vote for Trump, or voted for Jill Stein because they didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton, are seeing Biden as a better option, an alternative to President Trump, that the same type of thing they did not see in Hillary Clinton. Now, there could be a number of reasons for that, but Joe Biden has been consistently outperforming Hillary Clinton. In terms of Republican endorsements, she had roughly 55. Joe Biden has 188. He has nearly quadruple the amount that she has, and you add on Evan McMullin at this point. Now, he wouldn't technically count as a Republican endorsement. He's a registered independent, but he's been a registered Republican his entire life up until the 2016 election because he had to register as an independent to run on the ballot and get his name on there. But he's kept that characterization, and it's not just him. We're seeing James Comey, we're seeing John Kasich, Susan Molinari, a lot of people who were previously very popular amongst the Republican Party that are now comfortable with a Joe Biden presidency. And as John Kasich said, this is not normal times. There are so many things that are changing now. You can see the Republican in parentheses, Republican, Republican, Republican. We're seeing it all over, Republican, Republican here. I mean, the fact that there are these many Republicans endorsing Joe Biden, very notable ones as well. We have senators running, it's not senators running, we have senators endorsing Joe Biden. We have U.S. ambassadors endorsing Joe Biden. Obviously, he has the endorsement of numerous Republicans, because he's at 188, but there are only a couple of notable ones, mainly because most of them that, sure, are probably voting for Biden or just not voting for Trump can't express that, which means there may very well be a silent Republican vote that's coming out against President Trump. Now, Joe Biden's campaign can win based off just appealing to Democratic Party voters and Independent Party voters. The entire platform is bound to move to the right as he needs to win over independent voters. But I will say that I honestly don't see it going too far to the right where Republicans will be 100% confident in a Biden administration. I still think it'll be very difficult for Republicans to end up voting for someone who isn't registered under their party, someone who served as Obama's vice president for 2 years, but crazier things have happened this year. Now, as we see Utah, it's only 6 electoral votes. Trump is still likely to win it, but Evan McMullin just adds on to the list of Republicans who are starting to move away from Donald Trump. You have a former presidential election candidate who received 50.50% of the popular vote. While that may not seem like a lot, it's a pretty significant amount for someone who came very late in the game and also did, half as well as the Green Party. So honestly, that's a plus for them. And if we're looking at the 2020 election, Joe Biden's approval rating amongst Republicans is higher than Hillary's. His approval rating amongst independents, amongst Democrats is higher than Hillary's. He's a much more likable character. I'll tell you that much. I mean, him as a politician does not seem as much of a politician as Hillary Clinton, despite him being in the United States Senate for nearly 5 decades. So Joe Biden has some type of charm that's honestly appealing to a number of people. He's doing very well following this DNC. We do have to discuss the possibility of a convention bump after this RNC as well. We will see as the data gets released. But we've actually seen a new University of Southern California Dorn's Knife poll that was released that shows Joe Biden with a 13-point lead, and then another poll from another firm that released today with Joe Biden at a 13-point lead. Let's actually see if it's on the 2020 presidential average, but this could likely be due to some Republicans crossing over. We have 13% of Republicans expected to vote for Joe Biden. That's more than 1 in 10. So you line up 100 Republicans, 10 of them are possibly voting for voting for Joe Biden. That'd be a big shame if it was voting for Donald Trump. But Let's go ahead and see if we have the plus 13 polls. I honestly don't think that we will. But, Joe Biden never really needed a convention bump. He's been leading by 9.1% today, according to the 538 average. So I honestly think that it is important to note that Biden could have had a convention bump. We'll talk about the true impact of the DNC and the RNC on the election later today or maybe tomorrow. But what we're seeing now is that Joe Biden is starting to have a potential bump in polling data, but he's already been at a much better position than Donald Trump in the past. I believe he is the best challenger to an incumbent in modern political history. Mitt Romney was not at this high. I guess Hillary Clinton was not at this high if we're considering Donald Trump. He wasn't the incumbent at the time. Just no incumbent's challenger has ever been up by this large of a margin before an election, especially entering into a convention. Now, things aren't traditional. Things weren't held the same way this year, but as we've seen, Republicans, Democrats, and independents are starting to push away from Donald Trump, and Donald Trump literally cannot afford to lose any Republican votes, any independent votes, or even any Democratic votes that he won 4 years ago. And unfortunately for him, it looks like he's lost way more than just the 0.77% needed for Joe Biden to win the presidency. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord link for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch and then a playlist for my 2020 election videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please consider joining as a member on my channel, and I will see you all tomorrow. Later today.